Tree Country 1330 WTRE. It's 8:06. This morning we're joined by Senator Jean Leising. Good morning, Senator Leising.
Good morning.
Hi there. We are back in session for 2026. That officially kicked back off yesterday. Can you kind of just give us an update on how things are going so far?
Yeah, I sure will. Actually, it's been an interesting legislative process for the last couple months because many of your listeners may realize that we had actually a week-long session in December, and that had to do with redistricting or redrawing of the congressional maps for Indiana that was requested by Washington. But I'm pleased to have joined the side that we voted against redistricting with a vote in the Senate of 31 to 19. So there will be no changes. And that consumed a lot of the legislative conversation for the last couple of months. But now we're back on track on our regular kind of issues that we really want to talk about. And I would tell you probably the most important thing I need to tell your listeners, if they are a senior citizen, 65 and over, or a person who is blind or disabled, they need to go and they own their home. They need to go to their auditor's office in their county and sign up for some property tax relief that they may be eligible for. And this is one of the things that was in the property tax relief bill that passed this past session, Senate Bill 1, but hasn't really been talked about in detail. And so if a single person has an income of 60,000 or less, or a double part with two people in ownership has an income of 70,000 or less, they can qualify for a tax credit just because of being a senior or blind or disabled, and it could save them maybe $150 tax credit on their property tax bill. So I would urge people, if they think they may be eligible, to contact their auditor in their county, because that's really important.
And that deadline is approaching awfully quick, isn't it?
It is. It's January the 15th, and I'm sorry that I hadn't notified people sooner. But, it's been one of those things that sort of went under the radar screen because of all the discussions about redistricting, to be very frank. So now we need to make sure that people are aware of it because I want people to take advantage of that. I know that I've had a lot of people be concerned about their property tax bills, and I think it's some of our folks, like seniors, who have been most impacted by increasing property taxes. So this could at least provide them a little bit of relief. So I would really urge them, if there's any doubt in their mind, if they're eligible, to contact their auditor either by phone or by going in to see them. So now we are back on track, though, for actual committee hearings. And yesterday, for instance, my bill regarding trying to make changes in the historic sites law in Indiana had a hearing and passed unanimously out of Natural Resources. Now, that's the first step. And you might say, who cares about historic sites? Well, historic sites, there are 11 of them in Indiana. And of those, one of them would be the old state capitol, the first state capitol in Corydon, Indiana, down in Harrison County. And then another one that got me really interested in this issue is the fact that my district, after the 21 redistricting, I have Matamora, or the Whitewater Canal, in my district. And it certainly needs some serious maintenance work. And what happened is in 2011, the management of all 11 historic sites was changed from the Department of Natural Resources to the State Museum. And honestly, for some reason, they've been not taken care of properly. I'm sure part of it was funding, and maybe the funding source just wasn't there. But we've got to get this back on track, or we're going to lose our 11 historic sites. Another one of my bills that actually was already heard and passed unanimously out of the Agriculture Committee that week in December when we were there, is the legislation that will allow out-of-state veterinarians to get their license in Indiana if they're in good standing in their state with their current license without going through further testing, because we have a big shortage of veterinarians in Indiana, especially large animal vets. And so I'm excited about this bill. It's on the calendar today for third reading. If it is moved out today, it will go over to the House for the second half, and hopefully we'll keep moving. The Veterinary Association is who actually brought this bill to me and said, we need help because we don't have enough veterinarians to adequately cover Indiana.
And for those listening, that's kind of a comparison to the healthcare world right now, is that there's just not enough providers. It's just a shortage that's happening in the state.
Exactly. And it's really a kind of an interesting issue. But I just had someone yesterday tell me that their daughter has been admitted to the veterinary school at Purdue, one of 80 admissions for this coming year for the veterinary school, but they had 2,000 applications. 2,000. So to get into veterinarian school in Indiana is even harder than to get into medical school. And that came as a surprise to me a few years ago. I didn't realize how difficult it was. But all of that lends us to having a shortage of veterinarians. And in talking to the people at Purdue, their facilities only accommodate that number of new admissions. And so, and then you would say, well, that sounds like a lot of people. But the truth is, many of the young people going into veterinary practice are looking at small animals. So they're wanting to service cats and dogs and not cattle and hogs and whatever. So anyway, so this bill may provide some relief for the farmers in our area. And I'm sure hoping it does, because I know that some people really feel that it's not been adequate. And of course, as always, I am very interested in what's going on in our schools. I'm no longer on the education committee, but after hearing many people talk about our younger elementary kids no longer being taught how to use a pen or pencil and paper, whether they're printing or doing cursive writing. And the latest complaint that I've had is that little kids are no longer being taught spelling. And so, of course, the blame that's happening on that has everything to do with the fact that there's been such a focus on electronic media or electronic sources. But we have got many kids that no longer have a signature, but very frankly, have a difficult time printing or spelling. So I'm hoping that bill will receive a hearing in education, but it's too early yet to know if that will receive a hearing. There's always some bit of a struggle because not everybody believes that it's necessary for people to be able to use a pen or pencil and paper. I don't agree with that. I just came back from the State Agricultural and Rural Leaders Conference and literally I just came back Sunday night. It was over the weekend, and it was held in New Orleans. But it had some very interesting speakers, one of them being on AI, artificial intelligence.
Okay.
And, you know, the people, the professionals are saying that we are all going to need to be using some form of artificial intelligence, or we're sort of going to get left in the whatever, So this is a whole nother issue that's going to impact not just our adults, but it's going to impact our kids, because, again, they'll be able to talk to their actual artificial intelligence source and maybe have something written for them that they really should be writing themselves. But anyway, that's an actual big challenge coming up, and that is artificial intelligence. There were several, there were several issues actually covered in that conference. One is I was asked to present information on our grain insurance program, the grain indemnity program, which protects farmers in the event that their grain dealership would have a financial issue involving bankruptcy. So I was able to provide that. But probably one of the more exciting things that I did while I was at the conference was speak to the Minister of Agriculture of Canada, and it was at his request. His name is Travis Jones, and he is specifically the minister, the Canadian Minister of Agriculture in Ontario. And Indiana has, since Governor Holcomb in 24 issued what's called a Memorandum of Understanding, MOU. We have a trading relationship with Ontario, and it involves the trucking that is occurring at the Windsor-Detroit border crossing, and it's the busiest commercial land border between Canada and the U.S. They're estimating that it handles about as much as $500 million a year of products going across that border. And that's a big boon to Indiana's economy. And that it's roughly, a great percentage of the agricultural exports from Indiana are being handled in that way. So there's going to be some big decisions made at the federal level in Washington, with what's called the USMCA, which is the United States Mexico-Canada Agreement. And that's going to happen in July of 26. And so Canada, because of, I guess it would really probably go back to the federal decisions that have been made in regarding to tariffs, our trade, our exports that negatively impact agriculture have occurred in the last months. And so many of us are wanting the federal government to get back on track on that. I mean, some of your listeners have probably heard about the lack of exports of soybeans to the Chinese, and that's a whole nother issue. But this particular discussion that I had with Canada is specifically to the products that they're getting from Indiana, and it includes forest products, dog and cat food, which surprised me, infant food, and bakery goods, and it involves several $1 million. So it's an important market to keep up.
Is that MOU? Is there a time frame that was assigned to that MOU at that point that'll be expiring, or is there anything set?
Yeah, well, that trade agreement uh, has to be reviewed in July of 2026. And so we have to make sure that that doesn't go awry so that we can continue, at least from Indiana, the exports going into Canada, because we have no problem with exporting to Canada. We just have to make sure that the federal government, Washington, doesn't get in our way, I guess, would be an easy way of saying it. So there are many issues that are going to be talked about again this session. Late yesterday, I spoke briefly to one of our people that's, concerned as I am about the future of our rural hospitals and the funding with funding cuts that have occurred. And so I'm anxious to see what bills move forward to ensure that hospitals like Greensburg, Batesville, Shelbyville, Rushville, and North Vernon, very frankly, all five of those are in my district and would be considered rural hospitals. We have to make sure that they have the funding that's necessary as they provide services. Many people don't realize it, but anybody, even those that don't have insurance or are not covered by Medicaid or HIP, they can still walk into a hospital emergency room and receive services. But there's a real struggle for our hospitals to be able to afford to provide that service. So we have to make sure, as the whole issue of health finance is continued to be discussed, that we do what's right, what we can, at least in Indiana, to protect our rural hospitals. Some of your listeners may not know this, but I cover 7 counties in my district. There are only 5 hospitals that cover those 7 counties. And of those 5 hospitals, only 3 of them have maternity or obstetric services. So people now are driving much farther than they used to have to for their OB services. And as an old nurse, I worry about that and how it could negatively impact our infant and maternal health. So I'm going to continue to fight for proper funding for our, local rural hospitals, because I think it's so essential to all of us who live in our more rural counties.
Last week, President Trump announced the rural health funding that had been established, and then Indiana received a portion of that. Do you know if those funds have been decided how they're going to be dispersed throughout the state of Indiana?
No, and I think that is not, I think there is going to be funds, but I don't think we know how yet our hospitals are going to be receiving those funds. And, part of that will be done administratively, those decisions. And I'm hoping that the legislature can have an impact positively because, again, many people are not aware of the fact that we have a high percentage of people who are now Medicaid eligible. And I was told in my late meeting yesterday that our hospitals are only getting about 57 cents of the cost of providing services, 57 cents of a dollar on providing services to Medicaid patients. So we cannot continue like that and expect our hospitals will remain strong. And so I am hoping that the money that the feds have said are going to be directed to the rural hospitals will in fact get to the right places. Many people don't realize that over 50% now of the moms having babies in Indiana are on Medicaid. And so again, I think that is the reason why so many hospitals are no longer engaging in obstetrics or maternity care. So there are, even though Indiana is a great state and we have gotten a lot accomplished compared to some other states, we still have plenty of other things to solve and fix. And I hope that our constituents will feel free to contact me either by email or phone. But this session is going to move very fast. It's a short session, and they tell us they want to end it by the end of February. So I would tell you that the best way for a constituent that has a concern on a particular issue or a particular bill is that they should call my office in Indianapolis, where I'll be spending most of my time the next 2 months. And that number is 1-800-382-9467. And I think that if they call there, they just need to ask for Senator Leising's office, and they'll get connected to my legislative assistant, or they could leave a message telling me what they feel is most important to support or not to support. But I think because of the speed that this session is going to move forward, I need to hear from people. And, I would tell you, going back to the redistricting issue, I did hear from people, and strongly the people in my 7 counties did not want us drawing new maps for congressional districts in what they call midterm, because we normally do it only every 10 years after the census. Only 8% of my contacts were supportive of changing it. So it was an easy vote for me, but it was a very aggressive push by the federal government to try to get that done. And so I'm glad that that is behind us, but it also consumed a lot of attention to other important issues that still need to be talked about and fixed in the next couple months.
All right. It is a short session. It will fly by. And what people may not understand is that redistricting time, that conversation happening earlier, did take some of the session time up. So that's kind of pushed further and harder, I guess, for the rest of the issues.
It did, because normally in a short session, we would be there until the middle of March. But because the House met the first week of December and then the Senate met the second week of December, that took away 2 of the weeks of the normal short session. So again, we just have got to make sure that we get done the things that are most important to our state and to, very frankly, to our districts. And I will continue to fight for what I think is most beneficial for the people that live in our rural counties. And, we're so fortunate to have this lifestyle that we have in our rural counties. I think many people don't realize how fortunate we really are. But again, there's still things that could be even better. So we'll see what the other big issues that come forth in the next week or two. And I look forward to giving you an update again in a couple of weeks, if that works for you guys.
That's perfect. We thank you so much for joining us, Senator Leising. Can you give us that phone number one more time, just in case someone's listening and wants to get in contact with your office?
I sure can. It's 1-800-382-9467. 1-800-382-9467. And they should just ask to speak to somebody from my office, and then they will get someone that they can talk to or leave a message, and they can call them back. Okay. Right. And most of the time right now, I will either be in meetings or on the floor of the Senate voting. Unlike Washington, we actually attend all of our sessions, all of our meetings. We do a lot of discussion and debate, and I think that's healthy for all of us and for our constituents.
Gets a lot of information out there from all different angles of the state. So,
absolutely. Well, thank you so much for covering this and giving people the opportunity to know that Indianapolis is in session, so to speak. Okay.
All right. Thanks, Senator Leising. We'll talk with you in a couple weeks and get an update at that point.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye bye.